They said it was just temporary redistribution, but when my family's only source of water vanished during the worst drought in 50 years, and the HOA president installed sprinklers in his rose garden, I realized something darker was happening. What they didn't know was who I used to be before I retired from real estate development. The California sun beat down like a punishment from above. The drought had stretched into its second brutal year, and every drop of water had become sacred. My name is David Moreno, a 38-year-old father of two living in the once idyllic neighborhood of Maple Creek, now ruled by a ruthless HOA board. Maple Creek used to feel like home, a place where neighbors waved, children rode bikes, and life moved with a quiet dignity. But ever since the new HOA president, Victoria Granger, took charge, the community had turned cold. Her grip was iron-fisted, her board an army of enforcers, and her rules unforgiving. It all began on a Thursday morning. I turned the kitchen tap. Nothing, not a drop. My wife Elena was filling lunch boxes for our kids, Sophie and Leo, when I noticed the water wasn't flowing. "That's the third time this week," I muttered. "This can't be a city issue." Elena frowned. "I called the city already. They said water is being delivered normally to the area, no issues on their end." Something didn't add up. That same evening, I walked over to my neighbor, Mr. Patel, an elderly man who'd lived on our block for 22 years. He had the same problem. So did the Browns next door. Everyone on our end of the street, Section B, had inconsistent water supply. Meanwhile, Section A, where Victoria and the other board members lived, had lush lawns, car washes happening in driveways, and even decorative fountains still running. It didn't make sense. But the truth was far worse than I imagined. The first clue. Determined to understand what was happening, I accessed the utility readings for our block. I had some contacts at the city's water department. What I found shocked me. Sections A and C had unbroken service. Section BRs showed intentional supply throttling. The HOA had authorized water flow restrictions for landscape preservation priorities. In other words, they had diverted water away from our homes to keep their lawns green. The betrayal hit like a punch to the gut. We weren't strangers. We were neighbors, families. But the HOA had chosen to sacrifice us for their convenience. When I confronted the board at the monthly HOA meeting, Victoria smiled with that fake, overly polite expression she wore like a mask. "The drought has forced hard choices," she said coolly. "Section B has lower value real estate and less visual impact for prospective buyers. It's simply a resource allocation decision." I stood there, stunned. We have kids, seniors, cancer patients. This is people's lives, not a marketing pitch. But she had already moved on to the next agenda item. That night I gathered my neighbors. We sat in my garage, sweating in the summer heat, sharing stories and frustrations. Mr. Patel's medication required water intake every 2 hours. The Brown's toddler had developed a skin rash from not bathing regularly. We were desperate, and I was angry. "I'm done begging," I told them. "If the HOA thinks we're expendable, it's time we show them we're not." Elena looked at me. "What are you going to do?" I didn't know yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let them control our basic right to survive. I took time off work. I started researching land records, HOA zoning laws, and city water routing regulations. I discovered something shocking. The HOA didn't own the land their clubhouse was built on. It was leased, and the lease was about to expire in 60 days. And even better, the private holding company that owned it was in financial trouble. An idea formed in my mind. Not just an idea, a plan. I was going to buy the land they were built on. Not metaphorically, literally. The countdown begins. Over the next 3 weeks, I poured every ounce of my energy into making this happen. I reached out to a friend in commercial real estate, and together we set up a silent holding LLC. I didn't want the HOA to know I was behind this. Yet. I remortgaged part of our home. Elena's parents lent us savings. I sold my old Ford pickup. Every neighbor contributed something small amounts, but meaningful. We were in this together now. On day 27, we officially placed an offer to purchase the 2-acre parcel that housed the HOA's clubhouse, parking lot, and central irrigation valve system. It was accepted. The HOA had no idea, but the day of reckoning was coming. The land transfer went through on a cloudy Tuesday morning. By 10:37 a.m., the LLC I had formed, D&M Equity Holdings, officially became the legal owner of the 2-acre plot that housed the HOA clubhouse, their central irrigation system, and most importantly, the main water control panel they had used to punish us. I didn't tell anyone, not even Elena. Not yet. I wanted the moment to be perfect, strategic, calculated, just like they had been with us. My first step as the silent owner wasn't vengeance, it was leverage. I contacted a lawyer and served the HOA board with a standard 30-day notice to vacate non-essential structures on the newly acquired land. This meant the clubhouse, fitness room, and storage annex had to be cleared within a month unless they were ready to renegotiate the lease. I had included a clause. Failure to comply will result in disconnection from all privately supplied utilities, including water infrastructure, maintained on parcel 78B. 3 days later, my phone rang. Victoria Granger's number. I didn't answer. Instead, I let the silence drive them mad. The next HOA meeting was packed. The board looked visibly shaken. Victoria read out a statement. Due to a technical mishap with the property title, we are engaging legal counsel to clarify our occupancy rights. All services will continue as normal. Normal? What a joke. Section B was still struggling. Water was intermittent. The HOA, perhaps out of pride or stubbornness, hadn't reversed the throttling. They didn't think I'd push back. But I did. At 6 a.m. sharp on day 8, I shut off the irrigation valves for Section A, their prized lawns, decorative trees, and even Victoria's personal garden. By 11 a.m., panic had broken loose. The HOA issued an emergency newsletter blaming technical difficulties with the irrigation system. But they knew exactly what had happened. They just didn't know who had done it. That's when I made my move. That evening, I drafted a letter, not an email, a printed letter on official letterhead from D&M Equity Holdings. I had it hand-delivered to every single home in Maple Creek. The letter was short. Dear residents, this is to inform you that the parcel of land containing the HOA clubhouse, irrigation system, and parking facilities is now under new ownership. Due to unethical and discriminatory practices carried out by your HOA leadership, infrastructure privileges are under review. We recommend you contact your HOA board for clarification. Sincerely, D&M Equity Holdings. I didn't sign my real name, not yet, but I knew it would hit them like a lightning bolt. By the next morning, the HOA office was in chaos. I watched from my living room window as Victoria and 2 board members argued in the parking lot. Over the next week, I received 2 anonymous letters slipped under my door. One threatened legal action. The other? A plea. We don't know who you are, but please, we have children too. This isn't fair to the whole community. I laughed bitterly when I read it. Now they remembered the children? Elena sat me down that night. David, you're playing a dangerous game. If they find out it's you, they won't, I said. And if they do, they'll wish they hadn't. She stared at me. What happened to the man who just wanted to protect his family? She asked, softly. I looked at her dead serious. He still is. He just realized the only way to protect his family is to take control. On day 15, something unexpected happened. A knock at the door. It was Mr. Hernandez, a former board member who had mysteriously stepped down 2 years ago. He asked to come in. We sat at the table, coffee between us, kids playing in the next room. I know it's you, he said. You're the one behind D&M Equity Holdings. I didn't deny it. He leaned forward. I walked away from the board because I saw what Victoria was doing. It wasn't about community, it was about power. I watched him carefully. What do you want? To help, he said. You can't win this from the shadows forever. They'll spin it against you. But if you go public with proof, residents will turn on her. He was right. It was time. The public storm. 3 days later, we held a community meeting at the local library. No official agenda, just a gathering. And there, in front of 63 residents, I stepped forward. "I'm David Moreno," I said, "and I own the land beneath their feet." Gasps, murmurs, phones recording. I laid out the documents, the zoning charts, the water routing logs, the utility reports, the proof that our water had been stolen to keep their hedges trimmed. Then I showed them something else, a revised community charter proposal, one that would abolish the current HOA structure, replace it with a resident council, and redistribute budget control to all zones equally. By the end of the meeting, I had 47 signatures. We needed 50 to force a vote. 3 more came in that night. Silence. Then uproar. After I revealed my identity and ownership of the land, the room fell into chaos. People stood up shouting, some in support, some in disbelief, and a few out of pure panic. Victoria didn't show up to the library that day, but I knew she'd hear about it before sunset. She always did. The next day, I received a cease and desist letter from the HOA's legal team. They accused me of trespassing on land I owned, malicious interference with HOA governance, and inciting unrest among residents. I handed it straight to my lawyer. His smirk said it all. "They're scared," he said, "and you've got them cornered." But I knew we hadn't won yet. Their real strength was in the bylaws, a dense, manipulative set of rules that made it nearly impossible to dissolve or override the HOA without a 60% majority and a formal vote. We had 50 signatures. We needed 16 more. I became a man on a mission. Day and night I walked door to door, talking to people, listening to their frustrations, telling them what happened to us, how the HOA had diverted our water during a drought, silenced our complaints, and turned our street into a desert. Some cried. Some hugged me. Some slammed the door. But the momentum was real. By the end of that week, I had 63 signatures. Just enough. We submitted the petition to the HOA's administrative office and demanded a formal vote to restructure or dissolve the existing board. They had 10 days to respond. And they did. With fire. The board strikes back. Victoria went on a smear campaign. She sent out mass emails and posted flyers claiming I was trying to destroy the neighborhood, lower property values, and sell the land to developers who would turn it into low-income apartment housing. The fear tactic worked on some. A few people asked to retract their vote. But I stayed calm, because what they didn't know was that I had a backup plan. The media angle. I reached out to a local news station, Channel 9 Investigates, and pitched the story. Within days, they ran a segment, Homeowner versus HOA. Did this board go too far? Featuring footage from our library meeting, interviews with Section B residents, and drone shots of my brown lawn next to Victoria's green paradise. The story blew up online. Residents from other neighborhoods came forward. Some even drove to Maple Creek just to thank me. But more importantly, 5 more signatures came in. That brought us to 68, enough to schedule the vote and to scare the board. The night before. The vote was set for a Saturday morning. Elena stayed up late with me, helping print out handouts, talking through questions, and organizing statements. "I'm proud of you," she whispered as she placed her hand over mine. "I never wanted this," I said. "I just wanted water for our kids." She smiled. "And now you're about to become president of the HOA you tried to destroy." I paused. Because that wasn't the plan. But maybe it needed to be. The vote. The clubhouse was packed. Ironically, I had allowed them to use my land one last time for this vote. Residents walked in and dropped ballots into a locked box. Each vote was checked against homeowner records. The whole process was transparent, secure, and nerve-wracking. I didn't speak much. I didn't need to. The people already knew. By noon, the votes were counted. 61 in favor, 7 against. The HOA board was dissolved. The transition. Victoria refused to make a public statement, but she did vacate the clubhouse the following week along with the other board members. Some of them left the neighborhood altogether. I didn't celebrate, I worked. With Mr. Hernandez and 3 other trusted residents, we created a community council. No salaries, no politics, just a rotation of volunteers representing each section of the neighborhood equally. Our first act? Restore full water access to Section B. The sprinklers came on at dawn, and for the first time in nearly 3 months, our lawns turned green again. A new dawn in Maple Creek. The morning after the vote, I stood at the edge of my lawn, bare feet in the soft, wet soil. For the first time in months, the sprinklers sprayed across Section B like dancing silver ribbons under the rising sun. Children laughed as they ran through the mist. Birds chirped louder than usual. Even the grass felt like it was smiling. Elena came up beside me holding 2 mugs of coffee. "It's over," she said softly. "No," I replied. "It's just beginning." Tearing down the old walls. The first order of business: rebuilding trust. We began holding open community meetings every Saturday morning at the park, not in the clubhouse. No podiums, no titles, just folding chairs, clipboards, and conversation. We listened, we learned. The residents of Maple Creek were tired not just of HOA politics, but of feeling powerless. Under Victoria's rule, decisions were made in closed rooms, fines were issued without warning, water lines were prioritized by status, not need. We changed that. Every new decision, whether it was about landscaping budgets or pet regulations, was voted on by the residents, and for the first time, people showed up. The truth about Victoria. About 2 weeks after the vote, I received an anonymous brown envelope in my mailbox. Inside, HOA financial records going back 3 years. A copy of Victoria's personal landscaping invoices paid from HOA funds, and an unfiled complaint from a former board member who resigned in 2022 over unethical behavior and manipulation of community resources. My hands trembled as I read it. She'd not only used HOA dues to pay for her own water tanker refills, she'd also redirected irrigation maintenance funds away from Section B, calling it less aesthetically strategic. We had proof. I brought it to the new council, and together we reported it to the authorities. Victoria was investigated for misappropriation of funds, abuse of authority, and fraudulent behavior. Within a month, charges were filed. Her lawyer tried to settle, but we insisted on a public hearing. The residents deserved the truth. And they got it. Reclaiming the clubhouse. Ironically, the land beneath the HOA's old clubhouse still belonged to me. The day after Victoria's indictment, I received an offer from a property management firm to buy the land and demolish the building. Instead, I made a different decision. We converted it into a free community resource center, a small library, homework help for kids, and a weekly Ask a Neighbor forum where residents could help each other with repairs, job leads, or even emotional support. The sign outside read, "Maple Creek belongs to its people," and we meant it. Justice isn't revenge, it's repair. A few people called me a hero. Some whispered that I destroyed something they didn't know how to fix, but I never wanted destruction. I wanted dignity. Every time I saw someone from Section B smile while watering their garden or share a lemonade with a neighbor or plant a flower bed with their kids, I knew this was bigger than me. It was about resilience, about standing up when someone tries to silence you, about reminding people that you don't have to be powerful to fight back, just purposeful. The final letter. 6 months after it all began, I received one final letter in the mail. Handwritten, no return address. You changed everything. I may not agree with how you did it, but I respect that you did it at all. You won't hear from me again. Take care of our neighborhood. V. I folded the letter and slipped it into a drawer. Elena looked at me and asked, "Was it her?" "I think so," I said. And we left it at that. Epilogue. When the grass turns green again. Today, Maple Creek is thriving. The lawns are green, yes, but more importantly, the people are seen. Neighbors greet each other with warmth instead of wariness. Kids bike across both sections of the community without invisible borders. The water runs where it should to everyone. And as for me, I still walk every morning past the lawn that once turned brown. Only now, it blooms brighter than ever. Because justice isn't just about punishing the corrupt, it's about watering the places they tried to dry out. One lawn at a time. One family at a time. One truth at a time.